Toss Faded, the sports podcast that you didn't know you needed. Our views and opinions may be a little unconventional. The host may be a little high and maybe a little tipsy. The following opinions and views have nothing to do with the 989 Network or its affiliates. Other than that, sit back, grab a drink, roll up a fatty, and enjoy the show.
Thank you for tuning in to our new sports podcast. As always, I'm here with the one, the only Banny, and Zach the Attack. As always, my name is Connor the Condor, so let's get ready to talk some ball.
Can't wait to get to our very, very first podcast. Not our first recording. That first recording didn't go very well.
Not at all.
Thank God Eddie and Spencer are cool, have me on their podcast and stuff, and let us redo this shit because
Shout out to the 989 podcast.
we did not do a good job the first time.
Thank God they stuck with us.
So let's get to our very first official post. We're going to go through the Lions schedule here. We don't have the actual weeks of each game, which will kind of change our opinions probably later today, but we do have home and away, and we're going to start in the division with the Packers at home. What are you guys thinking?
See, at home, I'm thinking we're going to walk away with a W. I think we're going to switch from last year and trade with and lose away. So we're going to go 1-1 with them.
My opinion at home, I definitely agree with Zach on that. I'm taking a win all day at Ford Field, but Lambeau Field, it's an environment to not mess with, and that's just a 12th man on the field, having that environment around them. So I'm having them split. I'm taking the win at home and the loss away. Don't get me wrong, Jordan Love, he's a young guy, got great talent, and he's got great running backs now with Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon complimenting him. So, it's going to be a very, very tough game when it's at Lambeau Field.
I agree with you guys that we're going to probably split, but I think for some reason we're going to drop that game at home to the Packers in that electric offense, that super young offense. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to somehow pull it out in Lambeau in that super tough environment. I just love seeing us win.
So you think it's going to be another Thanksgiving game with a waxing moon?
I would love to see a win at Lambeau Field, though. That would be
nice.
This year.
That was nice last year. That win at Lambeau was fucking sick.
So we'll move right on here. So we'll go right to the next division opponent in the Vikings at home.
Oh, Minnesota, that's an easy dub at home. Sam Darnold coming into Detroit. Oh, that's going to be a tough atmosphere.
Definitely taking a win against the Vikings at home and away. On Zach's point, Sam Darnold, if he's going to be their number one quarterback in the starting QB, he's got such low play time and starting time. I don't think he's a comfortable enough quarterback to even pass on the subpar secondary of the Detroit Lions, but yes, they got Aaron Jones in there, but with a 78.3 pass rating percentage, Sam Darnold is not the guy to lead a win against the Lions.
Sam Darnold will probably have 200 total yards, and it'll be 160 to Justin Jefferson both games and 50 rushing
and it's
yards.
just going to be a screw it.
It'll
throw
be
it
like
up to
40
Justin
yards
Jefferson,
through the
hope
air,
he's
though.
there, say a prayer.
Yeah, I think we're all going to agree on this. Without Kirk Cousins, they're in a rebuild, and even if it's not Sam Darnold, it's a rookie quarterback. Like Justin Jefferson's going to do him.
He can only do so much.
He can only do so much. We'll just triple, quadruple cover him.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're chalking up 2 W's for the Lions, home and away for the Vikings. So now the first more difficult opponent, the Cardinals away.
See, I think we're going to have a dub there. It's going to be a tough one, but their defense last year was not putting up in the second half, and Jared Goff in the fourth quarter is pretty deadly. So I think we're going to walk out of there with a W.
It's going to be a hard one if Murray can stay healthy and Marquise Brown can stay healthy. If those two stay healthy, that's a very, very strategic and quick offense, especially with James Conner, who is a straight dog. Love him to death. One of the most underrated running backs in the league, in my opinion. It'll be a tough one, but I'm definitely marking up as a win because I see Murray making a few mistakes here and there.
So this will be the first one we completely disagree on because I do think we're going to take that L. Kyler Murray looked so strong at the end of last year.
One sec. You brought up Marquise Brown. He just got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he got traded a few weeks back. He is
Oh,
now
I did
a
not know
Kansas City
that.
Chief.
Well,
Oh yeah, and he's gonna have to replace our boy Rashawn
well,
Rice.
then definitely on that point, I'm definitely marking up a W because Kyler Murray can only do so much with his wide receiver group. Yeah, he's got a few people there, but if Marquise Brown's gone, yeah, he had injury last year, then that was his number one go-to, in my opinion. So,
Man, so they're
I'm
probably
definitely
gonna have
marking up a
to.
W.
But so then, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there,
But there is talk of them trading out, so we will have to see and come back to this one.
that'll be a future podcast topic, maybe even the next.
We'll
episode.
do this again.
That's right. All right, so we're gonna backtrack here a little bit here. So win for Connor, win for Zach. I'm gonna call it a loss, and it's based purely because I feel like the Lions are struggling with scrambling quarterbacks, and Kyler came back from that injury, and he looked healthy and strong,
them
and
quick
he can
little
run.
legs can move.
So we'll move right along now. Texans away. CJ Stroud, another straight dog.
See, now I called this way before Stephon Diggs got traded to Houston. I called the Houston versus Detroit Super Bowl matchup for 2024-2025 season. You heard it here first. But
Would love to see that.
I think it's going to be a shootout. Both defenses are pretty young and up and coming, so we're going to have some two talented quarterbacks and offenses going at it. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Probably some fourth down, going for it, big balls, Dan Campbell shit. But we're walking out of there with a W.
On your coming down to the wire opinion right there, I think when it comes down to it, it's definitely going to depend on either defense and the secondary they have, if they show up or not to play, because both teams are capable of putting up 350, 400 plus passing yards. But, you know, Stroud,
I
you
remember
got
my
Diggs,
first beer.
you got Nico Collins, all wide receivers, like insane amount of threat. And now you got Mixon in the mix. Like, it's just going to be a very, very hard team for the Lions defensive group to stop.
I think I agree. It'd be crazy if we watch this game and it's 12-10 and like
There's
oh
no
my
way.
gosh.
There's no
defense.
way. It's going 40
But
plus,
I feel like
50
it's going to
plus.
totally be those X factors. Like, what is Jameson Williams going to contribute? What is like Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs?
That's
the
a game
gift
where
for
Montgomery
me-
and Gibbs are just going to go off.
What
in
the
my
give
opinion.
for me is the O-line. CJ Stroud O-line wasn't the best last year.
All right, so but I'm CJ Stroud and that team right now just seems so stacked. I agree. They're going to be in the Super Bowl. They're for a win now. I'm going to call it a
Marking
loss.
a loss
Connor's
all day.
calling it a loss. You're calling it a
dub.
close
Close dub.
All right.
All right, so we're going to
Lions
move on.
secondary, you better step the hell up that game.
So Indianapolis Colts away, Lucas Oil Stadium. Anthony Richardson, my boy in my keeper league.
You love him to death. You're such a fan.
I'm going to go with another scrape by W on this one. Our weakness is the mobile quarterback, but the defense on Indianapolis isn't looking the greatest, so I'm thinking we're going to get out of there with a nice dub.
I think we're going to beat him by at least a touchdown or two minimum. I mean, it all depends on if Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor can either stay healthy or figure out a system to work together. That offense just was not firing on any cylinders last year, and there's just all this mix-up between that whole offense. So, in my opinion, I got a W with them all day. I love Anthony Richardson, and him and Michael Pittman have a great connection and can go off, but only two people can do so much when everyone else is slacking.
They did struggle to find their identity in the middle of the season after Jonathan Taylor finally signed and got on the roster, and then Anthony Richardson got hurt, and then Gardner Minshew was trying to
And
run
then
the read
Pittman
option.
got destroyed
Yep.
like week 12 or 13.
I think if Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor are healthy and they're running that read option that they were
And
starting,
Pittman.
It's going to be scary.
It's going to
That'll be scary. I mean, those are only three players on their offense, but man, are all three of those a main big
So you guys are both calling that a dub then?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I am calling it a loss because I think it's one of the teams that is going to be the
Yeah,
opposite.
you're just saying that because you love your boy Anthony
I
Richardson.
I do, but they're one of the few teams that could actually run the rock. They are not going to run. They're not going to sit there and spread the ball. They're going to try and game control, keep the ball
They're
out
not
of
going to
Jahmyr
give.
Gibbs'
Yep,
hands
exactly.
and Jared Goff's hands.
Exactly. Yep, good point.
All right, so we'll move on to the Tennessee Titans at home.
Definitely marking that up as a win.
Yes.
Will Levis and so-so quarterback not the greatest, not the worst, but without having Derrick Henry as that main huge threat in the run game, I don't really see them being a threat at all to us. Yes, they have Pollard, but like I said, only one man can do so much, and Derrick Henry, yes, he can be that one man to do something in the running back game. Pollard is talented like no other, but I don't see them putting up more than 14 points on us.
See, I see this as a huge running game on both sides. You know, Tennessee's been building an O-line. They've got Peter Skrinsky out of Northwestern last year, and they're slated to get, I think, like
Their
the
line has
top
been good.
lineman this year again. So they're stacking a nice line out there, and they got Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears as a backup, who, as a rookie last year, was he looked pretty dang good. You know,
He
they
definitely
could have
had some good
traded
flashes.
Derrick Henry last year and ran with Tajay last year and been fine. But
Those couple games Henry went out, Spears has definitely showed out.
But our running defense last year was pretty dang good. So I think we're gonna get out of there with an easy W. You know, we're gonna
What
shut
you
down
thinking
their
on
run
that, Danny?
offense, and I don't think Will Levis is gonna be able to hit Calvin Ridley over top of us. I don't think Will Levis will hit Calvin Ridley at all.
Ridley and Hopkins too, right?
Yeah, they
Hopkins
do,
still
but
there?
He's getting up there.
No.
He's not
Yeah.
far from calling it.
I feel like my biggest issue with Tennessee isn't that they have so much talent on that team, and why did you fire Mike Vrabel? It sounds like they're
Exactly.
about to go through a rebuild, and they talked about Will Levis
They've
walking
been trying
into,
to do a rebuild though for years. It seems like,
But it's
and
so
they
weird.
don't
They
get
sign
anywhere.
old receivers.
Well, yeah, just like you said, Derrick Henry was their entire offense, and it's not often that there's a fucking man amongst boys in the NFL, and Derrick Henry is that, a man amongst boys in the NFL somehow, and that's crazy to even say. So I think we're all in agreement here that
Dub.
that team is trying to rebuild or wants to rebuild, doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't have an identity right now. And granted, we could see a change, and Will Levis maybe year 2 could be the guy.
Bananarama.
But we'll move on here. Bucks in a revenge game at home. Baker Mayfield got his contract. They have a quarterback now. He's going to be
did Mike
headbutting some
Evans.
helmets. What are you guys thinking?
I am honestly 50-50 on this game. You know, in my opinion, it's not going to matter on the Lions or defense or Lions offense or defense. It's going to depend on if Baker has one of those games where he goes off, which he easily can on the Lions secondary. So if Baker chokes, we're definitely getting that W. We get that W. If Baker is on that day, I see him throwing for 370, 400 almost, and us taking that loss.
See, I think we're gonna have a little bit of a struggle with our secondary, especially with Mike Evans over there. I think it'll be exactly like the playoffs last year, where it's coming down to it, and we have to hold on at the fourth and walk out of there with a dub.
The biggest factor is definitely going to be the Baker Mayfield moxie factor, especially the revenge game. If you can get the boys all hyped up and everything for that game, and like the revenge factor, and it is at home, just like in the playoffs where we beat them, and they had played us really well in the playoffs. So, but I think we're going to get this win, and it's just going to fuel their fire, maybe even create a new rivalry with Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. I see it being a really close back and forth type of game. Like you said, Mike Evans, he's just unstoppable. 10 years. 1,000 yards each season. He's just ridiculous. First ballot Hall of Famer. And because we need to practice this shit, speaking of Mike Evans, absolute straight dog. But regardless, they do not have the power and ability to run the football like we do. We're taking that dub at home all day. We're all in agreement here?
Yes.
Dub all day.
Man, I get to see the numbers, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. We're just going to move on to the next game. Cowboys away.
Ooh, this right here, this game is going to be a big one. We are going to walk in there and slap them Cowboys silly. They haven't done anything in free agency except a long snapper, and they're going to be using him a lot against us. We're going to walk in there, and we are going to have Taylor Decker line up and report eligible on every fucking play of the game. And I swear to God,
screwed.
if we have Brad Allen and
We
his
got
crew reffing that
screwed.
game again, it's straight up rigged for the Cowboys, and you can already tell.
I think it would be funny just to have Taylor Decker on every play go tap a referee on the shoulder and be like, hey, just so you know.
Eligible.
So as much as I would love to agree with you, I sadly have to disagree with you on that. In my opinion, the only way I see us beating the Cowboys is if Dak has that off day and we pressure him into extending plays and throwing those picks, which he is notorious for. But in my opinion, that Cowboys defense for the past 2-3 years plus is just shining like no other. And as much as our offense is running and throwing on all 4 cylinders, that defense is just a force to reckon with. And with it being away, like I said, that 12th man in that stadium, it's going to be crazy. So that's one game I'm marking up as an L.
Ooh, I would say me and Zach agree this time. I think I don't believe that we let Jahmyr Gibbs really have a way with that team. Like I think we'd have to go back and double check numbers, and we're not going to do it right this second. But I feel like we all thought Jahmyr Gibbs should have had more touches in that game, and he was still he even said he was still getting familiar with the offense. There's a lot of checks, reads, and they're asking them to do a lot of blocking for Jared Goff because he loves the play action pass. He was one of the best in the league, and I think we unleashed Jahmyr Gibbs in that game. We're going to let him run all over. We're going to do, obviously, no read options with Jared Goff, but we're going to do a lot of the play action, run option to quick pass, get Jamison Williams some touches. I think we might actually put an ass whooping on them.
See, and on that note, I see the secondary and the defense all together at the Cowboys and the defensive coordinator being smart this year when it comes to the Lions. Last year, in my opinion, if I were them, I'm like, all right, it's the Lions. They're not really a team we have to somewhat worry about here and there. We got them. They have their flaws. But now that they know the Lions are who they are, they're going to take that extra week or two in advance, no matter who they're playing, and make sure they have a lockdown on all of our star players.
I don't believe Micah Parsons had as big of an impact as he could have. Penei Sewell did a good job, but if they move him around like they usually do, I feel like, oh man, that he's gonna run us ragged if they with all the checks that Jared Goff would have to make if they're moving him from left end to right end to middle linebacker to safety. I've seen him lined up at safety. That's fucking crazy.
3-4 different positions. It's insane.
All right, so me and Zach got a W. Connor's got a loss for the Cowboys. Now we'll move on to the Bills at home.
What are your thoughts on that, Zach?
See, this one I'm iffy on. It depends when we get them. If we get them beginning of season, that's a dub for sure. Stephon Diggs going to be scrambling out there.
So crazy that you say that, because that is my exact point too. I'm marking up as a win all day, every day if it's the beginning of the year, because for some reason Bills are always a team to reckon with, but it's at the end of the year. It always takes them a few weeks at the beginning of the year to figure it out.
Those last 7 games, they're always playing playoff football.
Exactly,
and they don't want to catch them
exactly.
then,
But
so.
beginning of the year, they struggle. They've been struggling the last 2 years. Their first 7-8 games.
I'm gonna go with a dub though for now. We'll see, when that schedule comes out.
I'm definitely going to say a dub if we have them within the first 8 weeks. Definitely marking up an L if we have them within the last couple weeks. Especially, no Diggs there. Love that for us. That's another threat gone. But Josh Allen himself, he has the threats, and he has anyone who he's capable of throwing
It's
at.
Dalton Kincaid.
Just Dalton Kincaid and their other tight end who came back from injury, but I'm not. He's a little bit older though. Dawson Knox. Yep. There it is. But I agree with you guys. The point in time in the season for that game is huge and critical. I honestly, like I said, we struggle with running quarterbacks, and if Josh Allen doesn't have receivers he trusts, I could see them doing so much read option early in the season while that offense is trying to find their identity. And if Josh Allen runs for 150 yards on us and plus gets some passing yards, I could see us taking an L. But right now, at this point in time, I see there just doesn't have enough people on the offense to throw the ball to right now. Like, it'll be all on his shoulders. So, and I know they had their GM Bradley Bean on the Pat McAfee show, and they joked that they were drafting a wide receiver every round, and that was before they traded
Diggs. Yeah, so they definitely taking a wide receiver every round.
So we're going. Is everyone going with a W then? Is that what we're saying? W.
Yes, sir.
Because right now we just don't know what the Bills have.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna move right on here. Jacksonville Jaguars at home.
That one I am going to mark up as a win. In my opinion, if Trevor, he had that little ankle injury at the end of the season last year. If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's a great quarterback. He's got Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, both very big threats on the outside. Not to mention Travis running the ball, both great threats. But my opinion, that offense and defense is too young to put up with the Lions. And, I mean, it might be a shooting fest. It's going to be high numbers in my opinion, but I don't see us losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
See, this team for me is opposite of what I said last for Buffalo. If we catch them in like week 2, I feel we're going to have another situation like we did with Seattle last year, where we get something in overtime and they score first, it'd be a shootout. But if we catch them late season, that team's always injured with riddled with injuries.
Exactly. Yep. I agree with you on that.
We can light them up in the end of season. So
no, they're definitely the opposite of the Bills, where they tend to right after preseason they seem to be rolling. They're a little bit younger on the offensive side, but then like you said, injuries and just for whatever reason they can't keep it together. What was it? The overtime, or they were up 24-0 in the playoffs 2 years ago.
They've blown a few games within the past couple of years.
I think they lost the one to the Colts last year when they were leading by 21 or something like that. I'm a sunshine Trevor Lawrence, like you gotta
sunshine.
Yeah, I want to root for Trevor Lawrence.
I do too. I love the kid. I do.
And he's shown flashes. I feel like you could compare him to any of the top quarterbacks in the league, but they just aren't consistent. I think we're going to take that dub as well. So we're all agreeing we're taking that dub right there.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we'll slide down to the Rams at home, a low-key Matt Stafford revenge game. And I know he did say, he said reportedly to Jared Goff after the game, like, go win it all. Like, they dapped up, and, like, he was rooting for us. He was rooting for the Lions fans. But, Matt Stafford's a competitive guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's such a competitive guy. But, I got to give the utmost respect to the guy. Love him to death. Great quarterback. Does what he does best in the pocket. And that arm is just insanely, freakishly strong. But in my opinion, with the Rams, like you said, I think that's going to be their revenge game against us, which kind of has me skeptical about my decision. But with that being said, I'm definitely having the Lions winning that game, even though Stafford's going to throw for 270, 300 plus to Puka and Cooper Kupp all day long with our secondary struggling like they do. But no Aaron Donald anymore on defense, so I see Gibbs and Montgomery going ham.
See, I think this is definitely a revenge game for Matt Stafford. He's coming in.
That's
booed
the one guy I worry
playoffs.
about.
He got booed in the playoffs,
He's a difference maker.
I'm unfortunately marking this up as a loss. They still got Sean McVay running that offense, and with Puka and Cooper healthy. And
Puka is such a straight
Kyron Williams, another straight dog. Running that backfield, that's going to be a scary game. So I'm marking that up as a loss.
This is going to be a hard one. Like you guys said, all the things you already highlighted. The Stafford.
We definitely got to give him a welcome back.
Well,
he's deserving of it.
To be booed.
He
deserves
it.
I think we were all pretty happy. We were wondering if he was going to cheer.
The guy's done so much to charity and community in Detroit.
You can love
and the state
Stafford
of
and still boo him when he's at home in the playoffs in Ford Field.
I'm definitely going to be booing you, Stafford, but I love you. I hope you know that.
We had to.
But I think I don't know, that team without Aaron Donald. I think the only reason that game was so competitive last year was Aaron Donald, like quite literally all of his highlights is
Manhandling.
there's highlights with 4 people blocking him.
That guy
4 fucking people blocking. Like we just said earlier, there's not a lot of people who are men amongst boys in the NFL, and he's an instant first ballot.
I don't know
Hall
if
of
I've
Famer.
ever seen him not get double teamed on a play that he's been in. I don't think I've ever
The
seen
respect that he gave Jason Kelsey, and Kelsey was like, "What are you talking about? I didn't do anything. We triple teamed you every time." Like,
I mean, yeah, no. One-on-one downs win that all day and twice on Sundays.
I think without him, that defense, who was so young and was actually a kind of a shining spot for the Rams last year, low key, but now you're talking about possibly a third to a half of their playbook is gone because they're expecting Aaron Donald to be blocked by 2 to 3 people every single play. So I'm thinking that's an easy dub for us. I mean, Stafford's probably, like you said, he will probably have 450, 500 yards. He's going to be fucking slinging it, but we're going to run that football down
Every
the throat.
game is a shootout.
That's where I think Stafford's only going to have 300-plus yards because we're going to have the ball in offense so much just running between Gibbs and Montgomery.
All right, so we'll move on now.
On them revenge games.
And, shout out to my goddess, Mina Kimes. I know this is her favorite team, but they have been fucking us for a couple years. The goddamn Seattle Seahawks.
The Seahawks.
We should have beat them 2 years ago, and it was one of our losses when we went 1-6, and we should have beat them fucking last year, and we better beat them this year.
They need to change the overtime rules.
So what are you guys thinking? Seattle at home at Ford Field.
This is our revenge game. And on that note, on that topic and fact alone, I have to mark it up as a W, even though Geno Smith is a straight dog. Love him to death. He's got Lockett and Metcalf, that 1-2 outside wide receiver, which is a great group, just the two of them. Not to mention Kenneth Walker being that running back, that star player. Love him to death. Go green, baby. But in my opinion, with that revenge game, we're going to be firing on all 4 cylinders, and we are going to have some fire lit under our asses for that game like no other.
You see, I'm not even going to break it down to a revenge game because at the end of the year last year, they were falling apart. They weren't performing too well, and sneak peek to my little
but we
draft
got
pick
screwed
here.
in that game.
I think Seattle gets Michael Penix Jr. So
Hutchinson
practically getting held and bear hugged at the final play.
It's not even going to be a revenge game because it's going to be an easy dub for us. They weren't firing on all cylinders, and I don't think they're going to come out hot, especially after bringing in a new regime. We're gonna see a different Seattle team next year.
Low-key, I kind of forgot about that, the whole Pete Carroll thing, and he was like, I wasn't really trying to leave, and they kind of forced him into an assistant position, the Buccaneers coach. Oh God, what is his fucking name?
Just can anyone who doesn't give it to Marshawn Lynch? The 3-yard line.
I don't think he calls the offensive plays, though.
No, I know, but any coaching staff can go fuck off. Then.
Oh, well, yeah, Marshawn Lynch
for
said
not
a lot
screaming
about that.
and yelling at your offensive coordinator to run the ball.
Okay, so let me give my thoughts and feelings. I feel like we all feel the same way. That might be one of the few games on our schedule besides one of the next ones coming up. What is the next one? I almost feel like we should maybe skip that one and do
good
the Bears
old
next.
49ers?
Yeah, so
49ers?
that's going to be we're all going to call this Seattle game a W. We think that they're in a little bit of a rebuild. Mm-hmm. They're not sure what they want to do with the quarterback. DK was hurt last year. Tyler Lockett was hurt last year. Shout out to DK Metcalf.
Kenneth Walker was hurt as well. Yeah.
And they were just hobbled. So, yeah, let's just get to it. The elephant in the room. The NFC Championship game. And we don't know exactly when this game is going to happen. Usually, they do those rematches of the NFC Championship week 1. But I don't think they did both of them last year, week 1. But usually they do. So we could see this in the middle of the season. We could see this at the end of the season. I think that'll be a huge part of how successful we are. Obviously, we're injuries. We were just talking about Brock Purdy and how much money they have. That team is fucking stacked.
Mm-hmm. See, I view both these teams last year had a couple weeks of a winning stride. They were playing on all cylinders, firing everywhere, and then they had a few weeks in a row where they just were not clicking, and they lost a couple games in a row. So I think it's going to really depend on who is in stride. Unfortunately, though, I'm going to have to mark that up as a loss. We're at San Francisco, which is another. Why can't we get one of these big teams at home? Bring them to Detroit. Let them hear us.
So
I know our fans traveled well last year, but Dallas and San Francisco away. Come on, bring them to Detroit. They would be scared.
if the 49ers played at home, I'm definitely 50-50 on a win-loss right there all day. But seeing that it's in San Fran, I have to mark that up as an L with Purdy, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk. There's so many threats in that offense, and that defense is always firing top-notch. It's going to be very, very tough to play against them. They're all just getting their IQ, their team, IQ and experience down. They're just going to grow and grow and grow more and better as a team as the weeks go on. Mm-hmm. And it's scary.
I'm going to try and look it up right now, but do you guys know if Chase Young walked, right? He did
is
resign
on the New Orleans Saints.
That's what I thought. They did let him walk because he's got health concerns, and that's why they didn't want to re-sign him.
Yep.
So they lost Chase Young, and he didn't even – when he finally got the hang of it, it was nice to have him with Nick Bosa. But I guess you guys – I'm glad you brought up Ayuk. Like, there's all that drama with Brandon Ayuk, and then they had some injury problems last year when they were having their stint where they lost some
Debo
games.
got hurt.
I think
Ayuk was hurt for like 1 or maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, like not consistently, but randomly here and there.
I could see Dan Campbell having the boys ready for them early in the season once we see the schedule come out and us coming out firing for revenge. And but I feel like if it's later in the season and all this Ayuk drama is done and that defense is settled in and Nick Bosa is rolling, they might be scarier at that point in time, especially since they have so much drama right now. So I'm going to call it a W, but that's going to be by far our hardest game on the entire schedule besides both the games with the Packers.
Well, kind of on that point, I honestly hope we get him later on in the year. Don't get me wrong, Christian McCaffrey is such a talented, amazing person. But
that's how a white man runs the football.
The workload that guy has to endure every week, every Sunday or Monday is crazy. Like, he struggled with those injuries before he went to the 49ers. I would not be surprised with the workload that he endures that he does get hurt by week 9 or 10.
Well, especially if they end up trading Ayuk, that could be that could be a draft night move. They trade Ayuk because he's just grundled, and now
don't get me wrong, Christian McCaffrey is a workhorse times 10, but you can only have one man do so much.
And even though Christian McCaffrey is technically a man amongst boys, but
definitely.
But he doesn't have the size that Derrick Henry does. He's just an athletic freak versus Derrick Henry is a fucking
Christian
alien.
McCaffrey isn't a man amongst boys. He's just a freak amongst boys. Like, he's just a freak athlete. That's the only way you can really describe it.
So I'm calling it a dub. It's going to be the hardest game of the year. But what are you guys saying then, Zach?
I'm calling it a loss.
I'm calling it a loss as well.
All right. So now,
the Bears.
Last year we traded with them. I couldn't believe that we lost that second game to them. But Montez Sweat did some disrupting, and the amount of retooling the offense they have done is crazy. And we're assuming Caleb Williams, which is going to roll right into our next segment, maybe on our second episode here with the draft. So we're going to assume, even though the NFL does not want us to say it, but we're going to assuming Caleb Williams, #1 overall draft pick. Caleb Williams led Bears, and that's who we're going to be playing with all those weapons. What are you guys thinking?
See, this is another game. I think if we catch Chicago in their stadium early in the season with all these weapons, Caleb Williams is going to throw for probably a good 300-400 yards on us and walk out of there with a dub. But when they come to Detroit, there's no question about it. He's not going to be able to handle that atmosphere, and we're going to walk out of Detroit with a win. But I think if we catch Chicago away late in season, cold weather where they have to run the football, we're going to destroy that O-line and get to Caleb Williams easy and bring him down and force him. to throw in the cold weather, which he has not done much of.
See, so on that note, I'm definitely marking both at home and away as W's because, yes, Caleb Williams might be able to throw for 350, 400 plus on us with a good offensive line, which the Bears do not have whatsoever. The only reason the Bears were a factor or a threat is because of Fields and his rush game and his scrambling game. Caleb Williams, yeah, he's a great passer, but can he scramble? Can he make plays? Can he draw up plays? When your offensive line is only giving you a second and a half, 2 at most, you're going to have that decision-making from college go cut in half, and now you're making those stupid plays, stupid throws, throwing picks. So, in my opinion, I love Caleb Williams. He's super talented, but with that Bears offensive line, I don't see him being a threat at all.
Well, and you guys know how much I love Justin Fields as well. Another straight dog. But like you said, we're going to do some Caleb Williams comparison here in the next episode and talk about that a little more, so I don't want to take too much away from that. But like you said, he tries to create plays, and he wants to throw. Mm-hmm. He's not as electric with his rushing. Not that he can't do it, but like you said, it's hard.
The guy can do it. It's just he doesn't have time to do it.
Well, and I don't think we'll see if they're able in the draft with so much draft capital. If we're assuming they're going to pick Caleb Williams, I can't believe that they're going to do that. I would have loved to see them. I would have been scared to see them.
They could have got so much draft capital for that.
If you imagine, if they traded back and they still had number 9 and they kept Justin Fields and put him behind the offense they just assembled, it's crazy that you wouldn't want to have somebody with all that experience run that offense.
They
I would
could
have been
easily
so much
have
more
traded
scared of this
up and
team.
got the best lineman.
Now you're bringing up Caleb Williams, who, yes, he had his Heisman season and all those numbers, and then he kind of faltered this last year without a lot of talent around him and his offensive line.
Not much of a defense.
Defense too. But I wouldn't be surprised if we trade because, division opponents are so crazy and close. Travis and Jason Kelsey talk about it all the time in their podcasts. Even though the Raiders weren't really competing last year, they still stole one from the Chiefs somehow.
Yep.
That's crazy to think about. Patrick Mahomes was pissed, him talking trash to Max Crosby. Gosh, I'm not even sure how much I can say about that because the NFL, we don't want you to sue us. Please don't sue us. But
we love you, NFL.
We only love you, NFL. Give us some sponsorship and money. So we're going to go over these numbers here and talk for a little bit about them. And I think I have a different number than the first time. Connor and I did this exercise without Zach the other day just to kind of see where we were at. And right now, Connor and Zach tied just like me and Connor did the first time. And this time I am 13-4. So I have the Lions finishing at 13-4, and Connor and Zach have them both finishing at 14-3.
Ooh.
So Connor made sure to do the same number twice, and I changed one of my answers somewhere.
Correct.
No, I changed. You stayed.
What did you do for me in Chicago?
Oh, did I have that backwards? Where's the?
Yes, sir.
So you changed. I stayed. You're right.
I put us splitting with Chicago.
Oh, you're splitting? Oh, so
Yeah.
Zach's with me. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct myself then.
The biggest thing with Caleb Williams for me is if I want to see him in cold weather. Chicago is a cold city. California, Oklahoma, not cold.
Oh, that's a good, and I know that
they don't play cold weather teams either.
I have a bunch of friends, and my brother-in-law is from Chicago. They're currently working out a deal for a new stadium because they're talking about going to a dome. But Soldier Field's kind of iconic, and they always talk about the weather is so bad, the wind is so bad.
Definitely changed my opinion about the Colts game.
Had
us losing the first time, but this time taking away as a dub.
Well, then I take back everything I just said. I'm fucking accurate, and I'm consistent. Connor's a fucking feisty little bitch.
Rawr.
Well, stay tuned here for more from the Crossfaded. Is that what we decide our name is?
Crossfaded.
Sports?
Faded Cross.
It's Faded Cross Sports.
Who knows?
We're super good at this
cross-faded.
sports cross-faded broadcasting thing. Make sure to always stay tuned with all the 989 podcasts and follow those Beers and Babbles. Spencer and Eddie are fantastic. They have me on their podcast. It's a really cool episode. I tell some crazy stories that I'm not sure if I have legal liability in. Definitely check that out. And always, as always, everybody love everybody. Be a friend.
We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows. Football.